Well set?
School thing.
Okay.
Being in school to see what it looked like in middle school.
Okay, we'll call the meeting of the Bennington School Board for January 7th to order. The reason I'm wearing this mask is I had a stem cell transplant, and the doctor said through January I should wear a mask anytime I go in where there's crowds, or especially with the flu season and colds. I don't like to wear it, but it's for my own good, so I don't think it obstructs my voice at all. Okay, first item on the agenda is citizens' comments. Seeing none. Second, the presentation, SVSU Public Pre-K Overview of Results of 14 and brief look at 15. Karen Burnell, Director.
Okay, but
So, good evening. And I'm going to be using a PowerPoint, and what I did is I made a slide, or I made handouts of the key slides that have some of the data in it. So it's your choice whether you look up there, but everything is not in this handout. If you don't mind passing those around.
Happy to.
This is I had done this presentation at the SVSU meeting back in October. And then George had asked for it to be on the agenda here in December, and unfortunately had a conflict. So we're doing it this evening. And I have my timer going, George. Stay within 15 minutes.
Please.
oh, that's heat.
So
If you get cold.
this presentation is just about pre-K. It's not about the whole early childhood department. And if you look at the handouts that you have for FY14, it gives you an overview of the 151 children that we served and where they were served. So you can see on the chart, the first partners that have asterisks after them are home child care providers, and the rest of the providers that have a double asterisk are centers. You can see not only the disbursement of the children by partners, but you can also see the percentages by town. So Bennington, you had served last year 65% of the population that was served in public pre-K. And again, this does not include our 3-year-olds, and it does not include the children with disabilities. How did we fund the project in FY14? You were on your last year of the VCPC grant. Pownell had a VCPC grant, as did Woodford. We used IEP Medicaid funds, local funds, the funds that go into the SVSU Early Education Program, and Title I. So lots of funds supported the project. We always wanted to see how we were doing as far as were we being effective in our delivery of services. And we use an assessment system called the Teaching Strategies Gold. And these are some of the characteristics of the Teaching Strategies Gold. It's a play-based assessment, and it's an observation-based assessment, and it's done in developmentally appropriate ways. So during the classroom activities every single day, the teachers and the paraeducators are taking observations and entering them into this Teaching Strategies Gold assessment, which is a web-based assessment, and it's pretty incredible. People can take photographs, video, and handwrite their observations and enter them into the system. It gives us a lot of information about children in a very authentic, natural way. And what we like about it is that it's ongoing. So it's not just one snapshot of a child, it's a child over time. And you can embed all of your work into your curriculum. So it's very efficient and effective. This is a slide that just talks about, it's a cycle very similar to you've seen before in the K-6 or the K-5 system. Starting up at the top, we collect our information, we analyze it, we change our curriculum on a daily basis to respond to what we're learning about the children. We then evaluate those actions that we take. communicate them to the team, and go back. So it's just a circular cycle that we take on a daily basis. We've had some phenomenal results. This chart represents, and I gave it to you in color so you can see it, and I'll lift up the machine here on the bottom so the TV audience can see it. If you look, this represents 125 of the 151 children that were enrolled. For some reason, there was a glitch with 25 of the children getting counted. So it is a good representation, but it's not a representation of all. It is an average. It's obviously an average of the performance of the children, and we were able to get this information from the AOE, from the Agency of Education. There's 6 domains that we look at, and the domains are listed on the left-hand side. There's the children's social emotional development, physical development, which is fine motor and gross motor skills, language, cognition, literacy, and math. This is a tool particularly for preschoolers, but there is a version for kindergarten as well. If you look at our fall entry data, just let's pick the line of social emotional development because it's first. At the beginning of the school year, 48.8 children were below what the assessment looked at for standards. 50.4 were meeting and 0.8 were exceeding. And if you slide over to the spring of this last year, you can see that we had incredible gains. Every single area that you look at, there were gains made. Again, this is the average. I do have this data that is dissected out for me by provider, so I can look at how the children are doing at each provider or partner's program. But I wanted to report it to you holistically. So we're doing a good job with the interventions that we're doing for the children. And if we were to go child by child, would there be children that still have needs and are below the standards? Yes. Again, this is the average, the overall of the 125. In FY15, this is the picture that we have. We have 10 partners this year. And again, the same coding for family child care programs and licensed centers. We did have one family home child care choose not to participate this year for personal reasons, but all of the other partners remain the same. We also have in our partner list, who is not listed is Happy Days Play School in Arlington. They did not have any of our SVSU students there this year. They would have if anyone enrolled, but they didn't. Again, the disbursement this year, 72% of the children are Bennington students, and we're serving 152. Again, these are just 4-year-olds, not 3-year-olds, and not who are at risk, and not preschoolers with disabilities. The funding this year changed. You no longer had your grant, so all of the money for Bennington is your local funds. Pownell and Woodford still have small grants. We have IEP Medicaid funds, our early education program funds, and Title I funds. So how this works is if the Pownell money, the grant money from Pownell would go to serve the Pownell children, the Woodford grant would go to serve the Woodford children, and everything else. So if you have money in the budget this year, it's dissected out so that Bennington funds only go for Bennington kids. It's all coded. Everything's coded. So it's all very directly related to the students that you serve. The IEP Medicaid funds, the SVSU Early Program, Childhood Program funds, and the Title I funds are dispersed across everybody. We do that because of effectiveness and efficiency. We don't have to duplicate things every single town, and we can share resources. If you could see the way the bills come through with percentages, it's a little outlandish, but it's all really accurate. We look at percentages, every bill that comes through, there's a percentage based on number of kids. In FY15, we're adding an assessment this year. It's called the DECA, or the Devereaux Early Childhood Assessment Preschool. And it's the second edition. And this is a social emotional assessment. And you can see the three areas that we're focusing on are initiative, self-regulation, attachment, and relationships. Because what we're hearing from the schools is children with social emotional challenges are the ones that have the greatest impact sometimes on the classrooms. So we're using this new assessment tool in addition to the Teaching Strategies Gold, which is required by the state. This one is not. And this will give us more information, and we're assessing children, and then we can teach them strategies to help on the areas of need that they have. And what's on the horizon for FY16? We're going to be having some new childcare licensing regulations. The Vermont Early Learning Standards that we currently have are being revised, and they're going to go from birth through grade 3, including the Common Core. There is going to be initiatives in the state for pre-K to grade 3 continuum. We're already in the implementation of the Early Learning Challenge Race to the Top grant. Universal public pre-K for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds is on the horizon for FY16. We've, as a SVSU, and you as a BSD, have decided to put that on hold until 17, so we'll be doing capacity building for the 3s next year. And we have an opportunity. The pre-K expansion grant was awarded to Vermont. What I heard today, I found out today, is that Vermont was the highest point obtainer in the small state grants. And we will have an opportunity to participate, whether we choose to do that or not. That's going to be going to the boards, and I know that Jim has talked to you about it.
What did you say? With the highest what?
Vermont got the highest score on the pre-K expansion grant that went into the Washington, which was a little surprising to me. So this expansion grant, we are still waiting for more information from the state, and then it will come to the boards to decide whether or not we'll be participating in the grant or not. But it's all about expanding beyond the 10-hour entitlement program is how that money can be used, either to extend the amount of hours or extend the services that we're currently providing. So, and that's all in a nutshell. It was very fast, but if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Ken,
What's with the 25 kids that were in the...
what was the glitch?
The 17% that you're missing.
We don't know. We don't warehouse the data. We don't always have the Agency of Education is the organization that has access to all the data, and the person that I worked with a company, and they just don't know why they couldn't pull in those last 25 kids. Because remember, all of these children are out in all of those multiple places. So we don't know if it was user issues, the way that they were enrolled, or if it was an issue with the way the data crossed over into the program. So what we've done this year to try to avoid that, to make sure that we're getting all the data, is we've written up directions for our partners, and we'll be double checking let's say at the end of this month with them, for them to send us a spreadsheet about how everybody is entered, so that we can make sure that we're tagged, because they have to tag us as that they're enrolled in our public pre-K program. So in addition to like a Head Start student, they would go in as Head Start, but they also have to check a box saying that they're part of SVSU pre-K.
Is it a problem across the state then too? Or
I don't know. A lot of people haven't asked for this kind of report. We did because we were interested, but a lot of my colleagues hadn't asked for this report, so I don't have I only know because we wanted to study it and see how we were doing. But, Jack?
Do we pay a fee to or supplement the cost of Head Start?
Do we pay? We don't supplement Head Start. What we are required to do is we are required to enter into an agreement with any partner who meets the quality standards, which means They have to have 4 or 5 stars, which is a quality rating system. They have to have a licensed teacher employed in their organization, and many other things. And if you meet those standards, then we will enter into an agreement with them to provide pre-K services for us, so that we can count them in our ADM. So yes, Head Start is one of those facilities that meets the quality standards on their own. So we do enter into a agreement with them, and we do exchange money with them. We do pay them to provide a pre-K service
I
for
don't
us.
understand that because Head Start is its own entity.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already funded, so why are we funding what's already funded?
It's the way the law is written. It is a question that comes up many times, and with the new law coming through, there'll be more clarification, but they are providing a service for us. And they are not required to have licensed teachers, and they do have licensed teachers, so they've stepped up in their quality, and the money that we provide to them can help them assure that they have licensed teachers available to teach their children. If any, we have other places that don't meet the quality standards on their own, but we've been committed in our supervisory union to serve as many children as possible. And so what we also do is, if a place doesn't have a licensed teacher, then we hire a licensed teacher and we send that teacher to a child care provider to act in that role so that we can serve those children through public pre-K. In that instance, we don't pay the full tuition rate. We provide the in-kind service of the teacher, and we pay a small amount of tuition support for the families.
Well, I'd like further research done on this problem because it almost sounds like they're double dipping.
That is the perception, and a lot of people have that same question. You're not the only person to ask that, and it does come up over and over. And so on one hand, they are providing a service to us. On the other, there is question about that. And we've asked for clarification. Many of us have asked for clarification around that, on that issue. But the state assures us that it's not double dipping. We're offering an extension of what's currently being done, either through quality or time. And Head Start does a good job for us, and they serve many of our children in pre-K, and they do a good job for us. So stay tuned. There is a manual coming out that's going to have a lot of information in it.
Well, and there's letters to your senators and representatives, too.
Right.
Because it doesn't sound like it's a very
Well-
clear way. I mean, if a program is already funded, and I can understand if they don't have a teacher to provide a teacher, and that's one way, but to fund a program that's already funded
Well, under
by the United States government.
Under Act 166, which will be the new law that comes forward next year, we're not able to use any federal dollars to support, let me take that back. If we were participating next year in the universal 3- and 4-year-olds, and for 5s not yet enrolled in kindergarten, we would not be able to use federal funds for the first 10 hours of the program because it's an entitlement. But because we're choosing not to do the universal, and we're choosing just to do the 4s, we can use our Title I monies to support the project that we're doing next year. But Head Start, once we decide as an SU, because we're the drivers of the project, they will not be able to use Head Start funds for the first 10 hours because it's supplanting rather than supplementing. And there's been a lot of work with the legal team on this issue for both Title and for Head Start. So it's not just a Head Start issue.
And what about church organizations that have preschools? Do you enter into an agreement with those?
We're not able to. If they're located in a church and they're renting space from a church and they're not connected to the religious aspect of the church, they can be a partner. But if it's a school church sponsored, religious sponsored, we are not able to. So.
Thank you.
Any other?
Thanks, Karen. No, okay. It's a pretty good, oh, yeah.
Okay, next item will be the New England Center for Children, Wendy Pierce.
So I wanted to introduce Christine Morse. She's an associate director at the New England Center for Children. Lindley Lang is the BCBA, which is Board Certified Behavior Analyst, who is in our program each and every day. Christine's going to give a report using PowerPoint, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. Okay, wake up. Thank you for inviting me here today. I have a very brief presentation just to give some background on what the New England Center for Children is and what the partner program is. I'm just going to get this up, and then I'll stop turning my back to you guys.
Worry about us. They're the important. We're just hired help.
Okay. So, the New England Center for Children, it's a nonprofit education and research center that's been working with kids with autism since 1975. So this year is our 40th anniversary. They started off with just 6 kids in a small rented space in a building, and now it's quite large. They have a residential program that has several different houses that are divided up based on the needs and the ages of the kids. There's a day school which goes from kindergarten age all the way up through 22. An integrated preschool inclusion program, which is if a student is in one of our day programs or residential programs and is ready to go back into the public school, we'll provide a staff and help them to transition that student back into the school. And the partner program, which I'll be talking a little bit more about, consultation and training that we do throughout New England, and autism curriculum encyclopedia, which is, basically it's a compilation of many different lesson plans and curricula that were developed for various kids of various ages and functioning levels with autism and similar characteristics at the New England Center. It was compiled and put into an online curriculum so that everybody can access everything that people have been making all these 40 years. And they've started aligning it to the Common Core and everything like that, and started making it available to schools outside of the New England Center. But all of the kids in the partner classroom have access to this. Come on. All right. So, what the partner program is. There is a district in Massachusetts that was sending a lot of their kids to our day program. And they approached us, and the special ed director approached us and asked if we would consider setting up a program within their school district so that they could keep kids in district instead of sending them out. And so we worked with them, and we tried to come up with a model that would provide the same level of support that the students would get at an out-of-district day placement, but provide it within the school community. And that started in 1997. So that went very well, and it's expanded, and now we have 27 classrooms across New England. One of them is in Bennington. It's a modified model, which I'll talk about in a little while. The purpose of the partner classroom is basically to provide the same continuum of supports that kids would get in a day program that's specifically for kids with special needs who typically can't have their needs met in the public school. One of the greatest benefits, I think, of the partner program is that kids get access to inclusion with their typical developing peers. They're part of a school community, and they can access that to the extent that's beneficial to them. So one thing, after working in this field for a long time, I've seen how hard it is for a student to leave their school community, go to an out-of-district placement where it's just kids with the same needs as that they have. And then when that placement decides they're ready to go back to the public school, there's no bridge. It's one extreme to the next. And it can be very hard to integrate a student back into his school community. This makes it so much easier because one of our goals is to gradually increase inclusion and time in the classroom as the students make progress, and our ultimate goal is to transition them out of the program. And we've been pretty successful with this in a number of our programs. We have kids move out and then other kids that come up through the district move into the program, and it's worked pretty well in a lot of the districts. Pardon me, I'm getting over a cold, so if I lose my voice, forgive me. Okay. The other thing too is we work on skills that go beyond academics. A lot of the kids, especially kids with autism, they need skills like social skills, self-help skills, things like that, taught in a specific way, just like you teach academic skills. So they're not picking up skills that other kids typically pick up by watching their peers or just by being part of a community, because they might not be motivated by the same things the other kids are. They might not notice when people are, upset at something they do. They might not recognize that stuff. And so we work on teaching them those things to give them better social skills. Okay, so I'm going to go over what a traditional partner classroom model is quickly, and then I'll explain what the model in Bennington looks like. So, very flexible, individualized education model. We individualize the schedules, the curriculum, behavior guidelines, staff training for each individual child. There's a full-time New England Center for Children master's level teacher that we provide as part of the program. Those teachers have to have at least 3 years of supervised experience working at the New England Center for Children. Weekly clinical supervision by a board-certified behavior analyst who's at senior level at the New England Center. So someone old like me. The Autism Curriculum Encyclopedia is available for all the kids. The direct care staff, so typically all kids in the program have one-to-one paraprofessional. The kids in the program are typically kids who districts may need to send out of district if they didn't have access to this level of services, okay? And those kids typically come to us with one-to-one staff or two-to-one staff a lot of the time because of behavior problems and things. So the district hires, we help interview, and the district hires all of the one-to-one staff. We train them. Typically what we like to do is do an intensive training in the summer for 2 weeks, and then we do ongoing training throughout the school year. Okay. Our goal is to provide these staff with the skills that we see in our staff in our on-site day program. And then that helps build capacity within the district. And it just kind of trickles down throughout the school a lot of the times. So we collaborate with general education teachers and specialist teachers with related services like speech and occupational therapy. And then one big important component of the program is our collaboration with parents. So there's a large body of research that shows that children with autism are much more likely to make progress and maintain skills if what they're working on in school is being carried over at home, which makes a lot of sense. So we work with parents. We'll do monthly parent clinics, which is an hour-long meeting where we present the data on each of the IEP objectives and let the parents, show the parents exactly where their child's at, talk about if progress isn't being made to the extent we'd like, what our next plans are. and talk about any concerns they have. And then in the traditional model, weekly home training. So there's 2 hours of the school week, of each child's school week would be spent in their home with one of the trained staff working with the parents and the child on things that the parents see as priorities for them. Okay, so, excuse me. Give you a little history with the Bennington program. A partner program for one student was started at Monument School for the 2013-2014 school year, and this was primarily because he really needed services that he could get in an out-of-district day placement, and there wasn't one that met his needs that was within a reasonable distance. So we partnered with the district and we developed a program here for him. It was very successful. He was able to remain in the district, challenging behavior decreased, academic and social skills increased, and he started being able to spend time in inclusion with his typically developing peers. And we were able to fade support so he doesn't need the level of support that he needed that year. So the district proposed a model to us that would make the services available to many more students. And the next slide, we'll talk about that a little bit. And we agreed, even though it's different from what we're used to doing, we agreed to try it out for the 2014-2015 school year. So the model that we're doing here is, the components are, instead of having a full-time New England Center for Children teacher, we have a full-time New England Center for Children Board Certified Behavior Analyst, or BCBA, who oversees the program, and that would be Lindley over there. She's fabulous. There are 2 adjoining classrooms. One is kindergarten through 2nd grade. The other is grade 3 through grade 5. And then the district provides 2 special education teachers, 1 per classroom. Currently, there are 9 students with intensive needs, 8 paraprofessional staff who are trained and co-supervised by the NECC BCBA, and monthly parent clinics for each student. And all students have access to the autism curriculum encyclopedia to whatever extent benefits them. All right. So some positive outcomes we've seen so far, just the few months the program's been in place. Some of the students in the program had been self-contained for a long period of time, so never spent any time in their regular education classrooms. They came in a separate entrance, they left in a separate entrance, they ate lunch in a self-contained room, they didn't spend specials with peers. Now they are included as part of their school community, and these kids are all spending at least some time in regular education setting. Daily. Which, the benefits, they're part of the community now. It's hard to teach social skills when kids aren't in a social setting. So it gives the opportunity for socialization. The kids get the opportunity to observe what other kids typically developing their age do, how they respond to things. And it helps their peers to develop some compassion and understanding for these kids because they're not just kept in a separate space away from them. There's been individualized instruction in a variety of skill areas. So some kids are working on basic self-care skills. Other kids are doing well academically, but have a lot of needs in the social skills and behavior area, and they're working on those. And then communication and academic skills are being worked on. Some of the kids need more, have more access to the autism curriculum encyclopedia because they need an alternative curriculum because of the level that they're at. Other kids are accessing that only as a supplement. All right. Data are being collected on all IEP objectives, and that's presented monthly to parents. So we make all of our decisions based on the data. So, and because we're taking it daily, we can see daily how things are going, and we can make decisions quickly. And then there's ongoing staff training provided by Lindley and by myself, too. Some challenges we've had so far. We typically have one-to-one staff. We went with 8 paraprofessionals and 9 students with the 2 classrooms. The challenge has been, we are used to having paraprofessionals who have 1/2 hour off a day, and that's what we were expecting. And the paraprofessionals in Vermont, which we didn't realize, have an hour off a day. So they have 3 breaks. They have a 15-minute break, a 1/2 hour lunch, and another 15-minute break. So with kids with intensive needs who can't be grouped very well, or who sometimes need 2-to-1 staffing when they're having behavior problems, it can be challenging to cover 8 hours a day of breaks. So the teachers spend a lot of their time covering staff breaks when they could be doing something more productive. Okay. Big challenge has been finding qualified special education teachers. So we typically have a master's level experienced teacher overseeing the classroom. It's been very, very hard to find that. Not for lack of trying, but it's been very hard to find qualified teachers. So that puts a lot more on Lindley, the NECC BCBA, and takes away from what she could be doing, which would be, spending time in inclusion with the kids, figuring out ways to gradually decrease, their needs for support and services. And she has to spend a lot more time covering staff breaks and helping with behavior problems and things like that. Okay. Another issue is the program's currently short 1 teacher. And then substitute coverage for staff absences has been challenging. This is challenging always when we open a new program, is working out these kinks. Substitute coverage is often a challenge because with the needs of the kids, you don't want to just take anybody and put them in the position of substituting for paraprofessionals who have the level of training that's needed to work with these kids. Some of them have unsafe behavior, and it's just not in the best interest of the kids to have people that aren't well-trained and experienced. So we provide training to all the subs, but that takes time, and, that is a little bit of a hurdle sometimes. All right, I can take questions.
Positives. You got challenges there. What are some of the major pros that you've got?
Pros are the increase in inclusion, definitely, for those kids, and that they're part of the school community. And also there's been decreases in behavior problems of kids who were having a lot of struggles before. And
Operationally, though, more operationally, are the challenges being addressed? Are we doing anything towards those? What's happening there?
we've identified some people to sub and train, but Dawn actually has a better idea of this. Sometimes it's hard because they're covering somebody else, or there's just not a large pool to draw from. And unfortunately, a lot of the staff that we got for the one-to-one staff in the program call out a lot. So that's been a big challenge. And I think the kids could have even more access to inclusion and be making even more progress if we didn't have to kind of group kids and bring kids out of their classrooms and stay in the partner classroom because we don't have enough staff to bring kids to their different classrooms, because they're all different grades and in different classes. So that's been a challenge, but we've been working on it. It's
We
just
have.
not,
We definitely have been working on it, and certainly with, Wendy, we've been working too, but with a new program, I mean, is it okay if I speak? New program for the district. There are lots of positives, and to have the New England Center there at Molly, on-site training has been incredible. Lindley does an incredible job with the kids and with the staff. But I think, as Christine said, we are really short. We should have a one-on-one for each of those children, and we do not. So we've also just received notification that one of our paras is leaving. So that's another opening that we're trying to fill. But there are, I think, financial challenges that have, hopefully not put us at risk here, but
The modified model that you're using here, on your part, away from Bennington, is this modified model, in your opinion, working? In other words, the model that you've put in here is called the modified model
yeah.
from New England. In your personal opinion, is it working? Are you happy with it, or are you?
Not happy with it.
You're not happy with it?
No, I think that some changes need to be made to make it work better.
And do you have recommendations that would make it work better? In other words, what do you recommend to us to make it work better?
I think there needs to be one paraprofessional for each student in the program. I think that's important. And then we need qualified teachers, and I guess the best way to do that is to start really early looking, like, for next year, and to look to different sources. Because one of the things that we find in our other districts is that the training is phenomenal that you get through this, and it looks great on a resume. So if people really want to advance their careers and they're really interested in working with kids with autism, it's a great career move, even if the money's not that good. So if we could if we could advertise that in the right places to the right people, I think that we would get much more interest. Like universities might be helpful. There are some different sources that we could look at. But I think one thing that's super important is having 2 qualified teachers. But one of the biggest challenge we've had is not having 1 staff per student. That's been really hard. I think that would make a world of difference right there, because the teachers would have more time.
That's not the hours that they work also.
Yeah.
You said we have 9 students. Well, how many pairs do we have?
8.
So we're 1 short,
Yeah.
plus the half hour they miss out, each one, with their breaks.
Is that what you're
Yes.
referring to, Jim?
Plus,
Hours?
there's an hour off for each one. That we didn't plan on. We weren't, and there's no reason why Wendy should have known that we wouldn't have realized that. But we plan for a half-hour a day per staff. So it was twice as much time off than we were expecting that needed to be covered. So it sucks up a lot of the resources that could be better used.
Where do we stand with NEC as far as, are we at ultimatum points where if this doesn't change, things aren't gonna go forward? Like, we were asking for recommendations, but
Yeah.
where's the stance from NEC?
We would like to, we're ready to start talking about the model next year, and we'd like to talk about different options. One is just to have 1 staff per student, and to start looking at ways to get more qualified teachers into the position. We definitely want to work with you guys next year. We're not saying we don't want to provide the program, but we're trying it. We've discovered that there are some things that work great and some things that don't, and we'd like to plug those holes for next year.
Are there any colleges that specialize in training teachers to work with these youngsters?
I think, well, there's Antioch University in Keene, which isn't too far, and they have a program that trains people to be board-certified behavior analysts. And in order to get your certification, you have to be supervised by somebody who's already a board-certified behavior analyst. So one big benefit would be they could get their supervision from Lindley, who works full-time. There are a lot of people who have trouble finding that. So that's a resource we could tap. And also any universities that have teacher training programs, it'd be worth it maybe they could reach out to their alumni, or maybe they have places where they post job openings and stuff like that for their alumni. A lot of colleges do that, but those are some things just to think about. And I have talked with Wendy a bit just about how to modify the posting somewhat to make it appeal more to those people who are really looking for.
Maybe you could even go as a SPED director to this Antioch and talk with students who are going to be seniors who are going to be graduating and tell them you're interested with, getting their skills over here.
Yeah.
I mean, right now is a good time in January when
To
their
recruit.
kids will be looking for jobs.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So
You don't
we
think-
actually do that. We
So in
recruit.
other words, just a regular SPED teacher like we have now in this program, they don't have enough of the background for working with autistic children, which is a specialty in itself.
What we were expecting were experienced master's level certified teachers, special ed teachers, and that's not. So that was just another kink we had to work out. We needed to put more resources into areas that we didn't expect to have to put resources into.
And the absentee rate you mentioned with the paras, I think we got a report from Wendy, the same thing happens over at the Congress Street. There's a lot of absenteeism with the paras over there as well. I guess it wears on people.
When you are talking about people working with some of our most intense needs students, so when you're talking about it is a high, stress job, and that does come with consequences, and people do need, days that they are sick and, need days to recoup and, get things back together. And we've been trying to talk, with the paraprofessionals across the whole district about this. They do have the days. It's not like these are people going over their days. I don't want you to think that. These are people who, are staying within their days and following through with our regulations that we have for paraprofessionals. But it is a situation that we're facing, that if we have 2 paraprofessionals out of the NECC program, that means we're typically really 3 paraprofessionals down for that day. So those students don't have access necessarily to go into those classrooms where they're being successful. So it's difficult, and it's one of the challenges we have been facing.
The thing that concerns me, I really enjoy your presentation. The business on the substitutes, I understand what you're saying, and I know that you've got a trained, certified person out, and you're calling the pool of substitutes, and so really you're almost at the mercy of what you've got walking through the door, which has got to be a negative for the program on what you got coming in. I guess the question I want to ask is, how big a problem is it? How many times are we using substitutes in this program? Because that has to have a direct bearing on what's going on.
It does. And we use substitutes whenever we have someone out, if at all possible. We have, I believe, 3 people trained to be substitutes. 1 person who is not employed by the SVSU, 2 people who are employed by the SVSU, but who have other obligations. But we have tapped into them several times to have them come from their obligations within the SVSU and provide coverage for them there. So it's difficult when we talk about, especially this program, there is very specific training that needs to happen. We can't bring just anybody in and say, oh, here, take, this child to the 5th grade classroom and do all the things that you're supposed to do. They don't know the things that they're supposed to do. It's not like they're going in and saying, okay, let's come together in a small group and we'll read today. They need to follow specific protocols to make these children successful.
But it is a problem.
It is a problem.
Excuse me, Jackie.
That should be done in executive session.
What's that? Say that again.
That should be done. We need to move on. We need to move on from that.
I wanted to ask another question.
About Paris?
No, I want to ask another question.
I got another question too.
I wanted to say that, would you be giving a recommendation to our superintendent on exactly what you're giving us tonight as to what way this program should be going, what needs to be done, what,
Yes,
you will be doing that
Yeah, we'll be
before the
working
year is
together.
out?
yes. Yeah, actually soon, we start doing that pretty soon. So we'll come up with different,
So Jackie,
My question has to do with the parents. You say you have IEP meetings like with them once a month and then you go to do you go to their homes still?
we
Don't-
haven't
Our programs don't do
yet
that.
because we'd like to, but we just haven't been able to with the staff resources that we've had.
And how are the parents, are they receptive of this? I mean, are they?
Lindley meets with them every month.
Some parents are very interested in having us come to the home. Some of them have other supports that they're accessing. And so they're interested in coming for the monthly meetings at the school so they can have needed support.
Yeah.
But they don't feel like they need the extra support with us going to the home, so it just depends on the family.
We find this in a lot of districts. Some parents opt out altogether of the meetings.
Well,
But-
that's my concern because we can do all we want at the school level, but if we don't have the support at home, we lose everything. It's because we don't have them all summer. We don't have them every vacation. And we don't have them at nights and on weekends.
Are you meeting with all parents once a month?
Yep, and they've all been receptive to coming in, and at that point, they are asking questions about what can I do about X, Y, and Z when it happens at home, so I can I'm giving those recommendations. So.
This is a really supportive group of parents with these students.
Okay. That's what I was kind of asking.
Absolutely.
If they
Very
were.
involved, very concerned, wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Paul?
This is maybe Wendy and Rick, is the current budgets being built around the needs that are gonna be asked upon, or is it being built around the existing program? The numbers that you were presenting at the last budget
You can
meeting,
answer that.
what are we budgeting, what are we planning around? I know that she's talking about giving recommendations to Jim.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned I'd like to hear where we're at with that.
Right now, the budget that is in there that I've talked about would include the needs I am projecting.
But are they coinciding with what they're presenting?
Yes. There would be one-to-ones.
And that's where we had concerns at the last meeting.
Answer the question?
I think it's answered.
Okay,
Any other questions?
thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank
Would you do it
you.
again? Would you do it again? Would you do it again with another district?
This model
Yeah.
with some modifications, not the exact model. But that's how we built the partner program in the first place. We made changes year after year till we came up with something that works.
We're not going to build it in 1 year.
That's right.
Keep that commitment, but
Thank
take their
you.
recommendation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, very good. Okay, next thing is the finance treasurer's report. Renee handed them out.
Yeah, we have task lists. Oh, I have it now. The ad hoc attendance committee, policy committee still needs to meet, and guess what? We still need to meet. Special education report, update on students and programs, and meet the new associate director for special education.
What?
We're supposed to meet the new associate director of special education?
Oh, I didn't know that Paul was supposed to come.
Yeah. But that's okay, bring them to the next meeting.
I will
Roll
bring
them
it
out
to the
next
meeting,
time.
I apologize.
And we did do the class size analysis at the budget work session.
Thank you.
Yeah. Renee gave us the 6-month balance sheet here from July 1st until December 31st.
And I apologize, I wasn't here last week. My typical schedule, my husband had a coaching meeting conflict, so. So November 30th, I went and picked up the check from the town for the tax collection turnover. This year, the town was looking at a 6% delinquency, so a pretty good collection. So we got a 94%. And then we will get the balance that's due to us after the state and the town, do their reconciliation. That balance will come to us in March. In December, we've received our state aid, our SPED reimbursement, as we typically do. And then, of course, as soon as that comes in, our SVSU assessment goes right out. So that'll be in your warrant tonight. So it's nearly 1.4 million that goes back to the SVSU.
You guys just suck it right out.
Because they keep giving us more to do. Presentations you just had.
You may note that the payroll warrants are a little bit higher this month, but that's because there were 3 payrolls in December. Typically, we only see 2. So that's a slight variation there. And then I also did I mentioned it in the email, and I apologize that I've had to revise 2 of these reports, but since Merchants has done their transition to their new banking system, they're still working out some glitches. And I don't know how or why, but one of the monthly statements that they sent me completely had the wrong interest figure on it in November, which then made December wrong. And essentially what they're doing is trying to get me statements as quickly as possible. But the way that we have our investment fund set up this year is it's through a third-party network. And instead of Merchants collateralizing all of these funds, they're actually investing them in banks nationwide that are FDIC insured. So we've got money, in all these different accounts that are under that $250,000 mark. So I can't get that information quick enough from that financial institution to get this report to you as quick as I need to for the first Wednesday of the month. So Merchants has been trying to mirror that, but obviously they're still working out the glitches. So that's why I've had a couple of revised reports, and I apologize for that. But we're working to get through it.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ed.
Need to accept.
Okay, can we have a motion to accept the treasurer's
So
report?
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. At yesterday's SVSU meeting, George and I asked Rick if he could give us some idea of the direct assessment from the SVSU to the Bennington School District, so we can, because we were told a 3.34 increase in the SVSU budget, but that is not exactly spread out to each school district. It depends on your needs, so Rick said he was going to put some numbers together. Do you have those at all?
Yep,
Coming around.
I'm passing it
They're
around.
coming around. And actually, I probably should have put draft on here.
Right at the top.
I'd like us to write it on here. Trust Richard to have it in a minute, so I'm covered, but you can write it out if you want. Partly because it's a draft, the SU budget isn't set, but, largely because we are at the SU looking at modifying the assessment streams further and actually expanding the assessment streams and not knowing yet where that's going to finally fall. There's some assumptions and some rounding up in here that I would expect you would see some lower numbers than what you're seeing. if you look at that first block, just above where it says total SU assessments, for the most part, well, for the total part, that is what you were seeing this year. It may not be exactly in that assessment stream next year, depending on how our final structure is decided. But for the most part, you're looking at a 3.38% increase in those assessments. Your sped reimbursement from the state is increasing slightly based on our current estimates and reports from the state. So your net assessments, to compare the apples to the apples, was basically level funded, roughly a $22,000 decrease. And you'll see the assessment increase, you'll see the revenue in your revenue piece. It's difficult to follow them within your specific budget that you'll see tomorrow night. But in reality, that's what the net number will be. I apologize for Karen. I'm going to, she kind of sticks out like a sore thumb at the bottom of this document. But it was the cleanest way for us, or at least I thought, for us to walk you through and show you the effects of what's taking place at the supervisory union. The preschool, you guys have been used to the preschool program for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, Karen, I forget. Each district's a little different. You have $275,000 right now in your budget for preschool tuition. If you also look up under your assessments, if I can find it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth from the bottom there, it says assess sped ECP, early childhood program, that you guys were used to seeing. You'll see that's actually going down $20,000. Part of that, well, all of that, is being shifted into preschool as part of the new law. What is it,
53?
166, Act 166? It's for 3 and 4-year-olds. As Karen said earlier, this district, as well as all the other SU districts, agreed to postpone that, or whatever the technical word is, I forgot what it was, but because we don't have all the rules for this new law, and in fact, in actuality, the state's saying they won't have them till May, if then. So we started working in August, September in anticipation of what these rules were going to be, because we couldn't wait till the 11th hour. And so we had to dissect the early childhood program completely and rebuild it. And we rebuilt it as to what we believe is our interpretation of the law, even though we don't have the rules from the state. I think we're correct. Someone smarter than me may tell me differently, but part of the problem is a lot of the preschool that was in that early childhood program can no longer be considered that. Help me out here, Karen, the students with disabilities that have a, right to services are not counted as preschool students, they're counted as basically special ed students. Is that correct? We had always been counting them as preschool kids. So if we have a child that's going to Molly Stark early childhood program, is spending 20 hours a week because they need it, we have to dissect 10 hours and say they're preschool and move them into a different accounting stream. And the other 10 hours that they're getting would be the special ed portion. I'm being extremely simplistic, and Karen can help me out if I go astray, but So we had to tear all that apart, and we literally, we did for her department, we did what's called zero-based budgeting. We literally threw everything out on the table, and we built it block by block into the right spots that they had to be. Again, based on our interpretation, what the state's going to tell us next year. So we got all that through, and then end of December, whatever, they said, well, you can put it on hold. Well, it was a little difficult for us because we'd already kind of thrown everything else out, and we'd started to rebuild this new program. So we now have the new structure, and part of the construction of the new structure is we are required by law to be able to report transparently, whatever that means. I know what it means, but I don't know what they're interpreting it to mean. The different components of the entitlement, which is the first 10 hours, the enhancement, which is anything over 10 hours, and the special ed portion. So that's what we've done. We've built those three components. And what you see in the early childhood program is the 10 hours entitlements for 4-year-olds and 10 hours of enhancement for the 4-year-olds that are within the special ed portion that's assisting those that need needs because they have to have inclusion models. Have I got my terminology right?
How far into the school year do you have to determine whether a child falls into a SPED category?
She has to identify them at birth, basically.
Yeah, they have to, before they enter.
They can change it any time. We have children who are,
You may want to come sit up here.
we have children that are
I need help.
receiving services birth to 3. And on their 3rd birthday or 90 days prior to their 3rd birthday, we have to determine if they're eligible to come into the public school. So we have a rotating enrollment. So our enrollment on any given day could change. We just had 2 new children just added yesterday. And so, and if we have someone coming in pre-K, we can accept them on a rolling basis as well. Remember, right now we have 200, we have 200 children, and 42 are served in schools. The rest are out in the community and community-based placements. So we have the children with disabilities that they have an entitlement. So we have not only the children that I just talked about with birth to 3, who at 3, if they're eligible, they will come into our program we have to have their plan ready for their 3rd birthday. And we also have children that are 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that might get referred to us at any given time. So we always have about 50% of our population is rotating because they go out into kindergarten and they're filtering in on the other side, and then we get the referrals. So,
So the next piece of this, let me just finish the financial piece, and then you can pepper Karen all you want. As part of the state passing the law and creating the entitlement, that by definition and by law cannot be paid for with title funds. We had been, actually this year, I think we're either close to or over $400,000 of title funds that is helping pay for our current early childhood program.
Yep.
So again, we started building this with the assumption of that's all gone. And fortunately, when they did give us the ability to postpone, we were able to go back and tap some of the title dollars for this next year. However, there was a further complication in the title dollars because of Act 79, whereby the state of Vermont is going to siphon $300,000 off of title to help fill the hole in the teacher retirement fund. It just put such a stress on the title dollars that I think you're only getting 150, 200 grand out of it or something.
yeah, we lost about 200,000 plus, so it had to go into these budgets.
So all of those components turned into a perfect storm to create this $235,000 increase that you're seeing in your budget.
But honestly, we knew it was coming anyways because the grant and stuff was going away.
Right.
Since you said you're getting ready for next year when the law gets passed and you're guessing about.
Well, my account structure is, again, unless I misinterpreted the law, my account structure is all set for 2017 when I'm required to enact the law, unless something happens this year and they do something different with it.
My question is, if we don't change and we stay with what we have now, we don't get ready for the following year, can we save some of that or all of that 235,000?
I think you could probably save some. I would caution you that depending what happens in the legislature, if nothing changes and we are required to enact it in 2017, I won't use the phrase funding cliff, it's going to be more like a funding plateau. You're going to have to really ramp up in 17. Because what we are able to do, and correct me, Jim or Karen, if I'm wrong, the only thing we could do is cut back on our tuition rate for our students. We've been paying a scale of between $700 and $2,700, $700 and $2,700, depending on their location and the services we were providing people, and I think it averages out to about $2,200 per head. The state is now saying $3,000. You could go back to $2,700. You can get,
Actually, we're paying 28 this year.
28?
This
You
year.
theoretically say zero. I mean, I'm not saying that's practical or advisable, but that's probably the only component that you could play with in order to save dollars. Would you agree?
And you could never say zero because you have to have a financial, you have to enter into an agreement for the providers who are providing the service. And if you don't, then you can't count that you're not providing public pre-K. So you have to have a tuition rate.
What I get afraid of is that a lot of times when you tell us about the dollars, they say the federal or state dollars that come in, they can't be used for something that you're already doing. And I'm afraid that if we start doing this ahead of time and they give us the dollars, that we won't be able to apply them to reduce this amount. We're just going to be on top of that. So the other districts who don't start ahead of us are going to get more money than we do per kid.
Well,
In other words, if it says 3,000 and we're doing 28, that we put in the 3,000 right away, they're going to say, well, only above 3,000 we can use the dollars.
they're not going to give you any money.
Well, I thought that Mr. Shumlin said no more mandates without the money.
That was,
You believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
It's really, really nice bridge.
Frankly, I could probably sell you 3 or 4 of them.
Give you the monument.
But
Roll around Manhattan.
the way the formula works is the state will dictate the tuition rate. Let's just use a $3,000 number. So if we place a child at whatever,
Bennington Early Childhood
Bennington
Center.
Early Childhood Center, we, Bennington School District, needs to write a check for $3,000 and hand it to the Bennington Childhood Center. In return, we get to count 0.4 of an equalized pupil for that child, which raises your equalized pupils, which theoretically is going to bring down your tax rate. So that's what the state's giving you, is that equalized pupil. You have to pay the $3,000.
We get money from the state based on the equalized pupil.
You don't get money from the state. It sets your tax rate. For you to send your tax dollars to the state, to send us a general state support grant to the tune of $10 million. Rough numbers.
So do the legislators know that they negated $235,000 to us by enacting that law?
They do as of Monday.
That was the discussion at the legislative breakfast.
It's amazing how many people didn't understand it, although
That's their hope. Nobody
I
understands.
did bring it to their attention at the end of the session last year, at our last legislative breakfast, that it was going to be a significant burden on our district. And at that point in time, they had not set the rates. And in fact, those rates just came out 1st of December, Jim? So we knew that this levy was coming.
And they'll have an
But they-
inflation factor to them every
They
year.
conveniently held it until after the election to announce what they were.
Coincidental.
And I'm not sure how the legislators didn't know that because, well, apparently they don't, forget it.
No.
That wasn't going to be nice.
No, seriously, the law that passed, I mean,
I know.
at their defense, not that I defend them very often.
But they attend legislative breakfasts, and
No,
we've been
but
talking
just
about
Let me
this.
understand, the law that passed said the state treasurer will hire an actuarial and let us know what the levy's gonna be. They had no clue what they were passing, they had no clue what the cost of what they were passing.
And they didn't have the money to support it.
And they had the best of intentions, and it's tough to argue against pre-K education, but now you're seeing what the cost of that is.
It's very good. It's a very good program. But
Particularly since it's linked to improving instruction and, you know, higher quality teachers in these programs, so that's all good. But,
And coincidentally, Karen showed you how great her program's been.
Oh, I don't have a problem with Karen's program. I know that, I can see.
17%
I mean,
of
we
the
can
data.
see that there's
that?
significant.
17% of the numbers.
I still couldn't hear you.
Lacking 17%.
Oh,
the
Can't
problem
go too far.
basically is that we were fine by ourselves and we didn't need a law.
well, we're fine by ourselves because we could use the title money to pay for it. And then once the law was enacted, then you no longer were using your title money to pay for it, and you're seeing what that, you know, what that effect's going to be. And
We
as
also
we
have.
pointed out, I mean, this is step one, you know, next year is going to have a
yeah, I
increase
mean,
also.
in FY17, you gotta bring 3-year-olds in. And the reality is, and Karen alluded to it a little earlier, is our partners really don't have capacity for the 3-year-olds.
No.
So we don't even know how that's gonna work.
We don't either.
And that's been our task this year, and continues to be. That's one of the reasons we delayed, along with the fact that there are still no regulations from the state on how this is going to play out, but capacity is a concern, and that needs to be addressed before we bring the 3-year-olds in.
Just because I can't think clearly right now, is when you were just specifically saying it affects your tax rate, equalized pupil affects the tax rate. We pay $3,000, we get 0.4 in equalized pupil, which affects the tax rate. So
You're gonna see all that tomorrow night.
the more equalized pupil, the lower the tax rate.
Yes.
You want as many equalized pupils as you can get.
Question,
And what is, in the ratio of reduction, how much is that? For the 3,000 we spend, what are we reducing our taxes by, or those numbers?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but at the $2,800 level, it's been favorable. And across the state, it's generally perceived to be favorable. Now, there's 3 sides to every coin. And if it's that favorable to every district in the state, the only thing the state can do in order to pay for that is to raise the base tax rate. So, you know, you can push here, but you got to find out where that equilibrium is.
We're controlling, we're managing over is how much we enact and what we go for, what we pass locally and how we affect that tax rate. I mean, state can make the rules and that they don't even understand and pass them. We just end up having to play by them. But I just want people to know
And pay for
that
it.
$3,000 that we have to spend today, what it's doing for here,
I mean,
they may affect somebody else.
Jim had a good analogy earlier today in my office when we were going over these numbers, you know. And he said, well, basically, we're on a new playing field. You know, we haven't even seen these lines drawn yet.
Right.
You know, it's not like I going out on a football field. I know where those lines are. These are a little different right now.
Just one more thing here, this sped reimbursement of 192, that doesn't show up in the budget, it's reducing,
That shows up in your local revenue.
but is that reflected in the budget? In other words, when the people vote, will the total budget be reduced by that, or is that something's gonna
No.
come in later and reduce the budget?
No, it shows up in your revenue, which reduces the expenditures to create your ed spending, which is what the tax rate is calculated. The voters vote on the bottom line expenditure.
So basically, the SVS assessment for Bennington.
That's actually, it's a good point. That's a current argument that's, well, probably for 2 years now, it's been in front of the state. That's since they've got this funding law, that they should figure out a mechanism for the voters to be voting on either the ed spending number, which is your net number, which is really what sets your tax rate, not the expenditure number, or you're voting on a tax rate. There's actually an argument around Montpelier that you should be putting the tax rate in front of the voters. Do you approve this tax rate? Unfortunately, you're going to put on there $13 million, which in reality, ed spending, you're only going to be needing to raise taxes of about $10 million.
So the SVSU assessment's going up about 6.27 for the Bennington?
Net of revenue, yeah, net of sped revenue.
Thank you.
Quick,
Any other questions?
real quick question.
Yep.
Is there a reason why the communities don't have an opportunity to vote on the SVSU budget?
That question comes up quite frequently. Yeah.
George asked that yesterday.
The last 15 years I was,
Yeah.
It's controlled by all the smaller towns.
The reason why, I'll tell you the reason why, whether you agree to it or not, is fine. The reason why is, the argument is, that would be a double vote, because you are technically, by legislature or whoever determined, you are technically voting on the SU through the assessments because it's embedded within your budget. And the difficulty would be, and they still have this difficulty now with the tech centers, because they vote on the tech centers separately, the three independents of which we are one, I should say. They vote on that separately, but yet that's embedded in Mount Anthony's. And if the CDC passes and Mount Anthony doesn't, those dollars are held harmless, and Mount Anthony's got to cut all their budgets. Now, in reality, if the SU budget went out on the street, I don't know how often that would pass, because nobody would understand it.
But if our budget goes down, the SU's budget still passes.
Right, but as I don't know, maybe the last 2 years, I know at least 1 year,
The board passes it.
you can go back to it, and they would reopen and they will reconsider.
we looked at it last year.
At least 2 years ago, they went back and reduced it after the BSD budget failed.
I think there's an assumption that needs to be corrected. I don't think you can say it's too difficult to understand. I think you have to make it so it's easy to understand.
I understand that, and I accept that challenge.
Because in order for people to vote wisely, and maybe this is why the budgets aren't passing, is because we don't explain it well enough in pictures or in words or in concrete blocks, where this money is going here, this is what's being spent. It has to be delineated in much clearer ways.
I hear
I don't know if we need a budget meeting tomorrow night. I think we just had it. So.
Okay. So you can get your questions together, and not only will we see this budget again, but we'll also see the regular one that the local principals will be bringing in, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Right. You have a budget meeting at 7 o'clock.
Okay, nothing under personnel. The consent agenda is included. We have a motion? Motion and a second?
Second.
Any questions? See, we have two senior teachers, both of them up here, Monument, retiring. Ms. Gore Roscoe and Sue Prue. Okay, everybody in favor? Okay, unanimous? Okay, education matters, regular education principals.
First, I want to thank publicly Jim Law for coming out of retirement again and covering. Howard, who did I say?
I've always wanted to be Jim.
He wasn't retired. Jim, did I add that retirement here in the consent agreement?
Put him on the payroll permanent.
I'll be thinking about that one tomorrow. So Jim Harwood, thank you for coming back again.
Thank you, Jim.
Again, the transition has been smooth, and your help and assistance with budget planning, and particularly on the summer school and after-school program was insightful, and your experience shows. So thank you for coming back, and now your reports.
I guess we're just using miscellaneous pens.
Now the non-retired Jim Long.
As I had mentioned at the last board meeting, just prior to our vacation break, we had our vision statement vote for SWIFT, the School-Wide Integrated Framework for Transformation, whether our vision would be supported by school personnel. There were 44 people voting, and there were kind of like three sections. One was whether they accepted the vision, and that was accepted 100% of people that were voting. Whether it aligned with the SWIFT principles and domains, and that was again 100% approval. And there was a third section of whether we should proceed with action and implementation of that vision and the components that would be required to make that, and that was 95% approval rate. There were 44 people who were on the voting list, so to speak. That was administrators, teachers, and educational specialists like nurses and guidance counselors and that type of thing. So we're very pleased with the vote. We'll be moving ahead and in trying to make education transformation within Bennell. It won't be an overnight process by any means, but we'll be making step-by-step improvements to make some positive impact on kids and with kids. There's some math training going on next week for kindergarten and third grade that Laura Boudreau, Donna Leap, and Pat Conway will be organizing for grades K and 3. It has to do with the Go Math curriculum and trying to implement that in an organized and supportive way. And there is a math night that's being held BSD-wide towards the end of the month. You've heard this before. K-1-2 will be at Molly. Bennell will be grade 3, and Monument grades 4 and 5. Last 2 weeks, Wednesdays in January and the first week of February. So we're looking forward to making some parent contacts and getting some information to parents that way. And our winter concert will be on January 28th. So, I'm done.
Thank you.
No questions? Okay, at Molly Start, we are also pleased to announce that our SWIFT adoption vote went through, and we had about 95% of our 47 people that were eligible to vote positively. So we have a SWIFT meeting this coming Monday, and we're looking forward to moving forward with our SWIFT school improvement plans with our staff. All of those schools are getting ready or in the midst of MAP testing. The window opened yesterday. So we're hoping to see the results of those, and that will coincide with any school improvement plans that we have or adjustments that we need to make in the academic areas at Molly and the other schools. Molly has a course concert, grade 3, 4, 5, tomorrow, 2 and 6 o'clock, and I can hear them rehearsing daily next to my office, so we're looking forward to seeing them. And also, all of our schools are getting ready for our NAEP testing, which will happen in February. And this is a 4th grade test. And we do this usually every year. Dr. Kelly is certainly, every 2 years, thank you. Dr. Kelly is helping the schools coordinate that. And we don't get results back, individual student results back to the schools, but it's an overall general information about the state of Vermont and how we compare nationally with other states. So that's it for Molly.
Thank you.
Monument School has just started practicing and will have a school play March 26, 27, and 28. We have approximately 40 students who have tried out and will be part of, and all of the students who tried out did get a part in the play. So I would invite you to hold a date in March, either 26th, 27th, or 28th, to come to our school play, Peter Pan. That's being directed by Carrie Gardner and Aaron Trawick, 2 staff members here at the school. With the help of TAM Waste Management, Mr. Pembroke, Jerry Prue, and the Abbey Group, Monument has been selected to pilot a composting project here at the school. Food waste products will be separated from other waste, and TAM will take care of that for us, and that is part of a state mandate that all schools will have to deal with in the 2020s. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the principals?
Just, map testing, are the tablets that we got, they an asset in this and that whole process and making this so that it's not musical computers and efficient, not running all over the
The
place?
Chromebooks,
Yeah.
they are able to do the map testing on their Chromebooks. Yes.
Have you seen a big, is it a big help? Is there a big change with what we have now? I mean, is it more easy? I mean, are we still having to herd kids through small rooms and setup and all that stuff?
Yeah, because we only have the Chromebooks in 5th grade, so, at least at Molly. So we're still, it's a struggle to get, at the school the size of Molly, it's a struggle to get everybody through. And then you also have makeups, kids that don't finish, so it's hard scheduling lab time. And then that takes away from other lab time that classrooms are typically in that lab using it. But the one-on-ones are definitely helping, but it's not.
Yeah, similar at Bennell, the Chromebooks are saving us at least 2 days of loss of the art room, which we channel kids through to take the testing. So it is a help, and hopefully that can continue and we can kind of chip away at it further and further.
I guess that kind of goes back as being built, because our tech plan has more of those in it every year and all that process.
See you tomorrow.
You're right. You are right.
Yes, you are correct.
Jackie?
How many laptops do you have in your, or Chromebooks do you have in each one of your buildings? I know this school's pretty set.
5th grade has Chromebooks.
It's 5th grade for Bennell. Then there
That's
are,
it? But
right.
didn't we pass some down to,
those are tablets.
Tablets.
We had passed down
And
from
we
5th
can't
grade
use
to
them?
4th grade. Pardon me?
we can't use them
Not
for
for
the
the
map?
map testing.
Okay.
But they are being used.
Yes,
Well, yeah.
definitely are
Instruction,
being
yep.
used in 3rd and 4th grade.
Thank you. Okay, no policies, under committees. The food service has no meeting in January. Technology, have they set a date?
I don't know what.
Okay, we don't know. And the SBSU meeting is next Tuesday. And it's expected that the voting on the budget for the district at that meeting.
But when is the next legislature meeting?
Now they don't know.
It's second Monday in February.
Thank you.
February 9th.
Okay, superintendent's report.
I'll be repeating a lot, because there's, one thing about going towards the end, there's a lot of people that have already said what I wrote down to tell you, but,
Perfect, you're done, let's move on.
yeah. I'm all for that.
I'm sorry.
I do want to revisit some of the things that the principal said, because it gets spoken rapidly, and I think it undermines the success that they're achieving. And I think we need to highlight some of the great things that are happening. So, the first, that all 3 schools have members, teachers, who have given an incredible amount of time to serving on supervisory union committees for ELL and ELA, math, professional development, science. Incredible amount of time and dedication by the staff who want to improve and move forward. We also have teachers who are attending professional development and implementing the Common Core standards in math. You heard the mention of Go Math tonight. And it's not just Go Math, it's also science. And I think it's all in preparation for the administration of the SBAC assessment. And all 3 schools also have teams that have been working on looking at student assessment data to focus on the strengths and challenges. And I commend you for doing that and choosing an area to focus on for improvement. And as you heard, Bennell and Molly leadership teams have been guiding their schools through the process of developing their vision statement, and they've successfully done that. And that is not just a small task that we mentioned. I want to reemphasize that and congratulate you on that. And that, this is important for moving the schools forward to create a balanced MTSS system to improve the instruction for all students, more inclusive of all their needs. That really is what we are attempting to do here. And this committee in particular asked for these math workshops that are now going to come to be, and you have the dates on that. I have a flyer here. I hope to be able to stop in at some of them. I hope that the attendance will be high. And again, I congratulate you for getting that organized, and to both Donna Leap and to Laura Boudreau for their assistance in helping you do that, and Pat Conway, our math coach. I don't want to forget her. And again, Jim, thank you for coming. So those are some positives. And the legislative breakfast, we've heard about that, and I'll be brief about it. But the topics really, as you might know, that on last Monday was budgeting and funding were really the highlights of what was going on, with real concerns about mandates being put on school systems, and that's what we wanted the legislators to hear, and promises from them that if anything is coming up in this legislative session, that they contact us, particularly me, and then I can disseminate that to who might need to hear what legislation might be being proposed that could have an impact on our school. And they have pledged to keep that line of communication open with us, and I believe that will happen. And as we just said, that next meeting is February 9th, and I encourage more of you to attend that. The other thing I want to say, what I've been doing since the last time I talked to you, well, I'm beginning to think I might be moving in with Rick. I've been to more budget meetings with him than anything else. But,
room.
but the process is tedious but necessary, and I think we're moving forward with getting these budgets ready so that they can be presented. And we all come to the table with different agendas. But we all have to work together to get these budgets passed. And mine is to advocate for what is best for our schools educationally. And some of you are here to make sure that we do that as frugally as possible, and I understand that, but I just ask that we remain positive and work together to get these budgets passed, and then take that advice from Jackie and make sure that we explain that to the public to the best we can, and display what our needs are. The high school principal, I know you're not associated with that, but you might be wondering, so I'll let you know the application period to replace Sue McGuire, who is retiring, unlike Jim Law, will be June 16th, and then we'll go forward with the screening committee, interviewing and narrowing down the candidates, and moving forward with that. I want to mention the weather. I've had a few inquiries about cold. Are you canceling school? Are you doing a delay? Let me take a moment to explain my philosophy, which, again, my opinion, but we've had some discussion about delay. I've seen on the news lots of delays. There is no delay in Bennington or in the supervisory union tomorrow. Let me say that first, and there is school, unless we get a call early in the morning that buses won't start. My experience in education, and it's many years, is that delays are very disruptive, not only to the school schedule, but also to bus schedules and to parents and to students who don't really know what time they should be out at the bus stop. And I actually think that a delay could result in students being outside longer rather than a shorter period of time. And that's why I'm not doing a delay tomorrow. And I think some of you will know just what time should I be on the bus stop? So did the bus already go by? So let me get out there earlier. And so I urge people to dress appropriately, but right now school is on and at the regular time, and that's the reason why. Next week I will be attending the midwinter meeting of the Vermont Superintendents Association, and the agenda will closely follow what's predicted to happen in Montpelier. So Secretary Holcomb will be attending, and the Speaker of the House, Shap Smith, has been invited to attend. He hasn't confirmed yet. So attendance from the superintendents is at one of the higher levels, particularly at one of the higher levels, because there's so much on the agenda and so many questions being asked, and I hope that I will be able to bring you back some answers from that. We've talked a lot about pre-K tonight, and I won't belabor it other than I like to put things on your radar so that when it comes along, that you're not surprised. The pre-K expansion grant, which is different than what we're talking about, the 10 hours. It's what the state of Vermont won, and that was new for me tonight, Karen. Great news that Vermont had the highest score. I'm still not convinced we want to sign on. We signed a memorandum of understanding with the state of Vermont, so we are a signature to it, but we have an opt-out clause, and the understanding is if the boards don't vote to approve, we're out. We still don't have the regulations from Vermont on how this is going to play out, and I have serious funding questions. The question, the biggest one, is at the conclusion of that funding, when the grant goes away and expires, that is what's causing me to pause to make that recommendation to any of the school boards. I, as an educator, can't argue about the value of pre-K, and it tears me to say that I think we seriously should consider walking away from it, but I'll wait till I have all the information before I make that recommendation to the board. But just want to put that, as I said, on your radar, that and it will be brought to the boards for a discussion and a vote before that happens, once we know better from the state of Vermont. And really, that's, and the other thing that I have received from word that the Speaker of the House has set the Education Committee, and Representative Alice Miller of Shaftesbury is going to be on it. That's the only local representative who's on the Education Committee. So thought you might want to know that, and that concludes my report. So.
Hi.
All right.
Thank you for all the details. Under chairs, just reminding everybody, tomorrow, 7 PM at Central Office will be a BSD budget work session. Try to make it. Anything under others?
Yes.
Yes, okay,
Teachers
Jackie.
negotiations.
Jackie.
We're moving right along. We have come to tentative agreements on numerous issues on language. There's still probably 5 out there that we're still looking at, and we'll be looking at probably for a couple more meetings. Our next meeting is the last Monday in January at 4 o'clock. They are open, but only the committees can talk. You can watch.
But they are public meetings.
But they are public meetings. And there will be a representative from Blue Cross Blue Shield from Health Connect at the meeting to explain health insurance options, to explain them to both of us, basically. And we'll proceed from there. We have not really got into money or health benefits yet.
Just open the door on health
Yeah.
benefits this week, and that's why that proposal to have someone from Blue Cross come to that next meeting.
They have been very congenial. We've actually kind of relaxed, and we've gotten along well, and it seems to be moving along well. I mean, the language parts, I've been on negotiations before where language has been a huge thing in contracts, and it doesn't seem to be that big of a deal, and we're both making progress on that.
Thank you for all your hard work.
So you decided you can do it
Anybody else?
not Klingon or Vulcan.
I was hoping Jerry could update us on the vandalism and the sewer situation at Bennell.
Okay.
For people who don't know, our maintenance shop, I think it's been 3 weeks ago now, got vandalized by tire slashing. It wasn't, it was 3 trailers and 10 tires. We weren't the only ones hit. They hit some tires in Applegate and Willowbrook. You know, my first thought was, oh, you know, who's got it in for us? But it wasn't that, you know, somebody had just gone out and slashed a bunch of tires. So because of that, I'm getting pricing to take and put cameras around the maintenance shop. We didn't do that in our initial setup because we were going for safety of children and that kind of thing, not for vandalism. So, and our project over to Bennington Elementary went from right after school vacation right till this past Sunday to get everything up and running. We did, it was rusted out sewer pipe, like about 2 or 3 inches down or wide of a 3-inch pipe. We had to dig through about 2 foot of dirt after we cut through 8 inches of concrete. But everything's back together, and if it wasn't for the different color tile, you probably wouldn't even have known anybody was in or out of there. It went really smooth, and everybody did what they were supposed to do and did an excellent job. So, any questions or?
Jim, I wanted to ask, did you ever get any more follow-up communication about the auditor and the report?
Yes, I've had a number of conversations with the, and let's be specific, we're not talking about the financial auditor, we're talking about the MGT report from the state auditor. So what they have requested for me, that if we're not going to move forward on any more recommendations, I need to formalize that into a letter to them. That was an email this week from them, and they're looking for it by the end of next week, I believe, a letter from me saying that we're not going to address any further. What they will do with that, I don't know, but that's where it currently stands.
Okay.
Any others?
What if we don't send them anything?
Okay, seeing none, I guess the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
Didn't do the task list, but that's all right.